Russell was at a Cornell West rally yesterday. Cornell West rally, walking distance from his home.
Yeah. This is the nice thing about being in New York. I really am. My relationship with New York is very Godfather 3. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. I was really, before the channel took off, if this had not happened, I probably would have left New York. Like if this had not become like what I do. But if you're doing this, there's so much political so many political happenings in New York. I have to turn things down. Like I wasn't able to go see the Greenwald Dershowitz thing the other night. I actually was invited by Keaton's brother, which is very nice of him.
That's right.
You just look at your email and, this rally is happening at the park by my house. Okay, sure, I'll cover it. So New York, I would argue, if you're covering politics, is the best city in the country you could be in. Better than DC because everything comes through New York. Right. In addition to politics. It's not just a politics town. Everything comes through here. And then you got the Trump rally tomorrow. It's just there is a lot to do here if this is your jam.
Yeah, so Russ was there. He got to interview Cornel a couple of different times. Not like a full interview. We got to ask him a couple different questions, seems like at different moments throughout the day there. And then you got to interview Norm Finkelstein, who was there as well. Chris Smalls was on the stage.
He
was on the stage.
Jetted. I would have tried to ask him a couple questions. He was out as soon as it ended. He might have been out before.
Oh, okay.
And Immortal Technique, he hung around a little bit, but my old ass wouldn't even know what to ask that dude. I really liked track 3 on your second album, bro. What would I say to him? But I thought I was in the wrong place because nobody showed up really. As you will see, I did a couple of crowd shots, but I got there like a half hour before the event. And really, I thought, I was like, hang on, man, Richard Rogers Theater, right? That's definitely the place. There's no other theater in Marcus Garvey Park. And nah, man, when I got there were like 20 people in the whole thing. There's a place that seats at least 300, at least. And then I realized, no, I am in the right place. Well,
as the rally went on, it seemed like there were probably maybe 60, 70 people there at peak. Maybe. Yeah.
Hey, people don't have time to waste. At the end of the day, people don't have time to waste. And, Cornell has made it pretty clear that he's not really running for president. He's not really running to make a meaningful electoral impact. And especially after the experience of the Bernie campaign, people don't have time for that anymore. They're not going to put time into something that is a vanity campaign at best. So you see, people vote with their feet about things like this, and that's what you see. Look, this is his town. This is Cornell's town. This is New York. He teaches right by where that rally was. He teaches at the Union Theological Seminary. If you can't pack a place in New York, where can you pack a place?
Yeah. So Russell did get some questions in with both Cornell and Norm Finkelstein. Now, Norm Finkelstein's interviews are never brief. So this goes about, 17 minutes or so. But this is a full cut. You'll get to see some of the speeches and some interviews.
If you want to see the whole event, we streamed it on X, so you can see the whole thing. But these are select cuts from it.
We had this in Washington, D.C. Yeah, I know.
I am from the show DueDissidence.
It's a blessing to
Russell
see
Davila.
You too. How's your back and stuff going?
I like your shirt. Physical therapy twice a week. But
That's right. When you were running with the Greens, you had ballot access, and you were getting a lot of attacks from the media. You were getting attacked from every direction. Is that why you decided not to run with the Greens?
No, not at all. I was attacked the second day I decided to run for president, and I hadn't even got to the Greens yet. The first week I decided to run for president, they said I was the greatest threat to fascism. I said, no, I thought Trump and his people were the greatest threat to fascism. I was a black man gonna be the greatest threat to fascism, and he only been running for 2 days. That's just typical double hypocrisy that operates. But no, I was blessed to work with the Greens for the time that I did. I had 17 states, and I decided it's best for me to be independent. I can speak more boldly, I can speak more true to what's inside of me, and I'm glad that I am running independent. And it's important. Salute you, my brother. Salute you, my brother. God bless you, man. Right on, right on. But what was I talking about? My dear brother come
You're
by.
talking about ballot access.
We're talking about ballot access, absolutely. And so we do, in fact. We're on the number 7 and 8. And we're gonna have a good 20 and 25 by the midsummer. We're on the board.
Are you afraid at all if Joe Biden loses that you'll get blamed? You get the Ralph Nader treatment?
I've been lied about all my life. I want to be true to what I'm called to do, and that is to love black people, to love poor people, to love working people, and to go down swinging like Muhammad Ali and Ella Fitzgerald. Don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing.
When I say Cornell, you say West. Cornell, West. Cornell, West. Cornell, West. Cornell, West. It's lit. Give a round of applause for yourselves for being here. And when I look at these politicians, a lot of them, who y'all know, will show up to your rallies, show up to your events, show up and take the photo ops, tweet about it, share it on Instagram, do all of that fun stuff. But don't put nothing in black and white and legislative that's gonna help us as a people have a better quality of life. And I realized that there ain't no cavalry coming for us. Let me tell you, I met your president, Joe Biden. And let me tell you how that conversation went. I don't remember it. Yeah, I know. It's funny, but it's really not. Because this man is running the presidency. He's running the country. I don't really know who's making decisions in there, but I can tell you one thing for sure. When I left that White House that day, I felt empty. I felt like there's no hope. We got to do this ourselves. And that was 2 years ago, y'all. So as I sit here today and stand with y'all today, I'm gonna let you know, we need a president that's gonna represent the people. We need a president that's gonna show up every time, not just one time. We need a president that's gonna stand on business.
We have 3 people right now that are running for office that I can look at, Mr. Trump, Mr. Biden, and Dr. West, and each one of them claims to be a Christian. One of them is a con artist that can't name a single Bible passage. The other one is another con man and a genocide supporter. And then we have a person here, a man of integrity, who isn't afraid to call a genocide, isn't afraid to tell the system it's corrupt to its face. So you have to ask yourself honestly, if Jesus was here, who would he vote for? Who would he say is propagating his message correctly? So you know me, some of you know me, I rap about all kinds of stuff. You didn't expect me to come here and talk about God and religion, but I have to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, that we're manipulated every day by people who preach piety, and they sponsor the most horrific things behind closed doors. The horrors that we've seen in Gaza, that happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. There just wasn't social media like that back in 2001, 2006, and we didn't have the opportunity as a nation to be as disgusted and repulsed as everybody else. And we appreciate your voice, Dr. West, and we appreciate your courage and your leadership, because everybody else has left us out in the cold, and you stand there singularly, unafraid, unbowed, unbroken. And from the bottom of my heart, brother, we appreciate you. Thank you. My name is Immortal Technique, Harlem, New York.
Ukraine, Gaza, Iran, and China These are terminal events waiting to happen, and President Biden is accelerating the move towards a terminal event waiting to happen. What Trump will do, I know, I can't predict. So it's a classic case of the fear of the known versus the fear of the unknown. But there's no doubt in my mind that on that particular front, namely the threat of nuclear war, he's a disaster. The administration is a disaster.
Cornell, make some noise!
We in here in Harlem, USA. And I met my dear sister outside. When I came in, she said, tears flowing down her face. She said, oh, they're taking over my neighborhood. This gentrification is just flowing every which way. What we gonna do? I said, my dear sister, you know we come from a folk who straighten our backs up no matter what the situation is and tell the truth and seek justice. And I intend to be faithful unto death. I don't care how popular or unpopular, I don't care what name you call me, anti-Semitic, anti-American, whatever the name is, I'll learn and I'll listen, I'll critically filter it, and then I'll look and say, Harriet Tubman, what do you have to say? Frederick Douglass, what do you have to say? Martin King, what do you have to say? Malcolm, what do you have to say? Ella Baker, what do you have to say? Fannie Lou Hamer, what do you have to say? And I ain't even got to the vanilla side of the struggle. But if we don't get ourselves together, if we don't get our souls together, if we don't get fortified enough to muster the courage to tell the truth, the courage to organize, the courage to sustain our struggle. Remembering what Martin King said when he said, I'd rather be dead than afraid. And Mary Ellen Pleasant said when she said, I'd rather be a corpse than a coward. That's what love warriors do. That's what you all have been doing. We just got North Carolina yesterday. Just got North Carolina yesterday. Oh yes, we on the move. I tell the story all the time. People come up to me, say, Brother West, I'm so glad to be your white ally. I said, my white what? Your white ally. I said, oh, well, let me tell you a story. There's a brother named Jerry who used to play the drums for Sly and the Family Stone. They were right here in this park in 1969, a few months after Woodstock. The Questlove just put in a film. And if you look at Sly, you saw Vanilla Brother playing the drum. And when Sly says, I want the drummer song, he didn't say, we're gonna have a white ally play the drummer song. No, the white brother's in the band. He's in the band, he's not a white ally. When you're in the band, that's part of the solidarity. You already have earned your space. He hits the drummer song, and then Larry Graham hits the bass, then Sly hits the organ, and same is true with Miles Davis, with Bill Evans. He's a white brother on the piano. You think Miles gonna turn to Gil and say, we're gonna have a piano solo by the white ally? No, he's a white brother in the goddamn band. When you're in the band, you've already earned your spot because you sacrifice, because you're willing to pay it all. That's what this campaign is about. Thank you all for being here. Stay strong. Stay strong. We are changing the world. We gonna continue to change the world. Nobody's gonna discourage us. Nobody's gonna try to beat us down. Brother Steph, thank you so much for your magnificent work, and all of you who are here. And Sister Corey, Lord have mercy, we thank God, dear Sister Corey. Indeed.
Lord, this is the baby born during the campaign.
Sorry, I'm looking at you too.
Keeps us fighting. He got the most beautiful smile, and the whole cosmos opens up.
Yes, right?
Smile. Lord, Lord, Lord.
Dr. West,
Yes.
with Joe Biden prosecuting Julian Assange, and we just had Chairman Yeshitela on our show. Is he a fascist?
Lord have mercy. Well, he certainly disregards the right of one of the most important journalists of our time, was my dear brother Julian Assange. There's no doubt about that. But does that have fascist implications? Absolutely. Absolutely, my brother.
All right, Norman, I was hoping to get a full interview with you, but since you got a ride going, let me just ask you. I know you get asked about the ICC ad infinitum. Why are you supporting Cornel for president?
Oh, I'm not being glib now. I believe in democracy. In my day, every left organization, they put up candidates during the electoral cycle, in particular the presidential cycle. If you go back to the 1960s, there was the Peace and Freedom Party, and there was the Freedom and Peace Party. And everybody had, Ben Spock ran for president. If my memory serves, Eldridge Cleaver ran for president. An election was was seen as an opportunity to educate, to use the attention that's focused on a campaign, a presidential campaign, to educate. And it's a very strange moment we're in now, where people are saying he shouldn't even be allowed to speak, that's a betrayal, a vote for Trump. Listen, brace yourself. Democracy means people think for themselves. You can listen to Cornel, you can hear his arguments, and then come election day in November, you could decide still to vote for Biden. You could still decide that. But the idea of preempting him from the get-go to even speak during an electoral cycle, that to me is completely bizarre. It's people have lost any belief in democracy. It's all these elitists telling our country who they should and shouldn't be allowed to listen to. And I just find that not only appalling, but completely insane. I've never seen something like this. The Communist Party, it never expected to win an election, but always fielded candidates. In my day, it was Gus Hall and Angela Davis. I remember it well. Okay? They don't expect to win, but nobody ever said they shouldn't field candidates. The whole point was you use the electoral cycle or the presidential year in order to educate. And then, believe it or not, you're supposed to leave it to the people to decide. Once they've heard all the arguments and all sides, you can hear the argument that a vote for Dr. West is a vote for Trump, or a vote for Dr. West is a vote for fascism. You can hear that argument. You can hear Dr. West's reply, and then you decide for yourself. You let people weigh the arguments and decide for themselves. It's deeply elitist. It's deeply authoritarian to be saying that he shouldn't even run, that people shouldn't be allowed to listen to what he has to say. That to me is completely, as a radical Democrat, that is completely and totally unacceptable. It is pure totalitarianism, or at least authoritarianism. To silence a person's prerogative to run for office and letting the people decide whether or not they agree or disagree. And that's the reason I'm supporting him. I'm not saying vote for him in November. I don't know. We still have 6 months between now and November. I don't know what's going to happen. It's quite possible Biden won't be around. It's perfectly plausible he won't be around in November.
Well, now you said
Not
on
that the wish is, father to the deed. I'm not saying that, but it's possible.
now you said on stage that Biden would get us to fascism more slowly.
Yes,
now with the prosecution
I
of
think-
Assange, Yeshitela, challenging the right for intelligence services to go after social media companies, is Joe Biden a fascist?
My view is the system is failing for 80% of our country. It's failing. And that the appeal from the right, as in Europe now, the appeal from the right will increase unless the system is set straight. And under Biden, it will not be set straight. About that, we already know. There may be improvements on the margins, and I'm not going to dispute that. There may be improvements on the margins, but it's not going to change the trajectory or lack of a trajectory for 80% of our country. And so if Biden comes into power, those same forces will keep accumulating, and maybe it'll be in 4 years, maybe it won't be now, but a serious, as in a lot of Europe now, a serious right-wing person will come into power. And if it starts happening under Biden, I do not believe he will not be able to reverse the process. He will not be able to stop the process. And judging by how he reacted to the assaults on academic freedom and freedom of speech the past few months, I don't think he will even make an effort to stop it. To hear what other people have to say, I find that completely ridiculous.
Well, but Norman, that hasn't been the left critique with Cornell. A lot of people were disappointed when he left the Green Party because they felt, this is the reason, they felt that he was afraid to get nadered, that he's going to get nadered, that if Biden loses and he runs as a Green and gets 4%, that's it. He's verboten for the rest of his life. That's the left critique. Well, you're talking about the liberal issue.
That may be an argument. I can't speak to it, except to say it does not strike me as Dr. West's personality. It doesn't. That he would abandon the Green Party because he was afraid of getting enough votes that would cross the threshold. It doesn't sound like him. I could be wrong, and I acknowledge that. But that kind of calculation, it doesn't sound right. But people I've been hearing say Cornell West is an egomaniac because it's just about an ego trip on his part. I'm thinking to myself, is there anybody who's ever run for president who doesn't have a very large ego? That doesn't come with the turf. If you're running for president, you have a very large, Jimmy Carter, nice guy, humble, a large ego, So
Truman?
I don't know how you came up with Truman. Next you're going to say Gerald Ford.
So, yeah, man, it was interesting. It was kind of sad. It was kind of tragic. As you saw, nobody was really there. But really the big question, I asked it of Cornell, I asked it of Norm, and Norm gave an extremely honest answer that he doesn't think that Cornell would be that calculating, but he doesn't dismiss the possibility. I thought that was very forthcoming, given that clearly they're friends. But what do I think after? It's different personally interacting with people than it is watching them on a video. He clearly loves the kissing the babies part. That's why I dropped that in there. He clearly likes the glad handing, interacting with the people in the crowd part of politics. Obviously, as you would expect, he likes the speechifying part of politics. He just doesn't actually like the winning part of politics or the constructing a meaningful political project part of politics. So having, just my brief interactions or observations of him, does he seem like the kind of guy who might have gone to the Green Party and said, fuck these cosplaying white kids, I can't deal with this, I'm just going to go do my thing, it's a symbolic campaign anyway? Sure. I can't imagine that the pressure he was getting from the media, which you'll notice, in spite of the answer he gave, that basically he's still being persecuted. No, he isn't. They stopped talking about him as soon as he left the Green Party.
Yeah,
when he was running with the Green Party, every week it was child support, it was taxes. They gave him a taste of what he's going to get. So I can't imagine that's not part of it. Does he temperamentally also seem like somebody who is just completely unsuited to the actual work of being a politician and not just the fun part, kissing the baby and making the speech? Yeah, I don't think he wants to do anything more than that.
Yeah.
And obviously people understand that, and that's why nobody's there. Nobody has time for that.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, with the Greens, it would not have just been a symbolic campaign. The Greens, you start out with 17 states. You're on the ballot in 17 states on day one. So that's not a symbolic campaign, especially since they are on the ballot in a few very important swing states. Now you become mathematically a big factor in the race. And, I noticed, since we did the stream last night, because that stream that you live streamed to Twitter has quite a bit of views, as that got out there quite a bit. And some people are saying, are you going to go to a Jill Stein rally and comment on the crowd size? Look, I'm not against Jill Stein. I'm not about taking down Cornell West's campaign. The point about the reason I say I'm not inclined to throw whatever weight this show has underneath it behind a candidate is precisely to avoid those kinds of arguments. Because when you back a horse, now you have to back your horse and you have to tear down the other horse. And to me, it's not worth arguing over. Like, there are meaningful things that we can argue about and get angry at each other over. Whether you're going to go in to a voting booth in November and cast a symbolic vote for Jill Stein or a symbolic vote for Cornel West is not worth arguing over. Right. Now, if Jill Stein gets some wind at her back, I mean, Kim Iverson told her that she's voting for her, which is, that is indicative of something. It's indicative that even people who, and I'm not going to say Kim Iverson, I don't really know how you would label her ideologically, but she spoke very, very well of Jill Stein when she just interviewed her. And she just said, look, like, genocide is my red line. So whatever reservations I have about, some of what the Green Party stands for that I might disagree with, you're the only candidate with widespread ballot access who is against the mass murder of children. And so I have to place that above all else, and so I'm going to vote for you. That's what she said. And I respect that. If I vote, it will probably be for Jill Stein. Almost certainly. If I vote for president, it will almost certainly be for Jill Stein. And if she gets some real wind at her back and she looks like she's actually going to make a difference, then maybe we'll think about telling people to get involved in some way. That's still a huge question mark, because here's where it comes down for me. If I'm going to tell you to get involved in something, if I'm going to vouch for somebody or some campaign, I have to be confident that your investment of time, money, or resources is in good hands. So when Jose told us he's running, A, I know Jose. I think he's the real deal. B, when Jose told us he was going to go pound the pavement and get 10,000 signatures in 10 days, as I told him on this show last week, I was a little skeptical that he could do those kinds of numbers in 10 days. But I was not skeptical that he would get the signatures he needed. I was like, this kid's going to go out there and he's going to get the number of signatures he needed, and he will be on the ballot. Therefore, I felt totally comfortable recommending that all you guys get involved. And on our recommendation, people flew into New York from Ohio, from Kansas City, right? People spent real money and took real time out of their lives to back this campaign on my recommendation. So if I'm going to endorse somebody, if I'm going to recommend that you invest in something, I have to be damn sure that your investment is in good hands. I can't promise you an outcome, obviously, but I can tell you your investment is in good hands with someone who's going to take it seriously and run a serious and strategic campaign the best that they can. And in Jose's case, I trust him to do that. Do I trust that do I trust your time and money with the Greens? No, I do not. Do I trust your time and money with Cornel West? No, I do not. So that's what it comes down to. It's not about Do I like them or do I not like them? I like Jill Stein. Fine. But there's a difference between promoting someone or giving them credit where they deserve it and actually getting behind a campaign and making a formal endorsement. Because when I do that, I'm recommending you, I'm telling you guys to take time and money that you may not have and put it into a campaign. So that to me is the that is the sort of threshold that these candidates have to meet.
Well, as you all know, who watch the show regularly, I've been on a whole journey since what I've come to call the douchebag dialogues about you know, how we address each other, how we interact with each other, how we decide who's in, who's out. I do feel increasingly that YouTube and other platforms like YouTube are a panopticon. The algorithm causes us to make our own prison where it encourages very, very vituperative language. It really encourages attack. It really encourages, you know, barking at the moon. It really, really encourages that. And, you know, going and sitting through a conference of supposedly free speech advocates who would not say the name Julian Assange the entire fucking weekend really puts things in perspective. So looking at that gathering where everyone essentially has left positions about Gaza, about genocide, which I think is the defining issue of our moment. I think taking somebody like Cornell West and, you know, just ruling him as an untouchable forever now because he ran a stupid campaign and probably choked when he saw how much his self-interest would be affected by a real campaign. So what? Cornel West can never be involved in any left cause again. You can never, you know, and it's funny. A lot of people who feel that way are the same people who will say, no, Josh Hawley, I really liked what he said about that thing. I don't agree with him on other things, but somehow if it's somebody who is generally coded left, one step out of bounds, that's it. So you gotta remember who we're up against and what we're up against, and who and what we're up against is not Cornel West. Now, that having been said, yes, what Keaton said, we're not going to use our platform to encourage people to get involved in what's essentially an aimless vanity campaign where somebody wants to go through some of the motions of running for president without actually doing it. And as Finkelstein said, we're not in Cornell's heart. We're not in his confidence. I can't tell you why he dropped out of the Greens. I have my strong suspicions. It's probably a combination of factors. I think the factor of self-interest is an element of it. It's kind of beside the point. I mean, Chris Smalls, I didn't catch that part, but when Chris Smalls got up on the stage, he was kind of apologetic almost. I think he was embarrassed about the crowd size. He said, well, Cornell came when we were fighting for our union, so, you know, I'm gonna show up here. Like, he was almost, I wish I had caught that on tape. It was a very revealing moment. But that having been said, hey man, he did show up for that, apparently. Enough that Chris Smalls felt like he had to return the favor and show up there. So I, you know, very famously, I didn't get this on camera. Me and Norm had a little conversation about this, about the left eating itself. And I said, you know, Norm, this goes way back. This is not new. This is a very famous thing of the left and its purity tests and attacking each other. I think that the fact that so much of our organizing and communication takes place within this context of this vicious algorithm that wants us to attack each other is exacerbating it. And hey, if you ever saw Network, which is, you know, I hope to kind of develop a cultural dimension to this project, there's a play adaptation of it, which I would love to do. And I very often think of the character of the black female Marxist revolutionary who they wind up giving her basically a reality show where they're going to show the revolutionaries robbing banks. And eventually she gets so infected by the incentive structure of TV that this Maoist is yelling, "God damn it, you got to get him off the air. My numbers are tanking." I think this space, our version of ratings is likes and clicks and views. And it does create a perverse incentive. So, hey, man, do I think Cornell West is like an evil guy with evil intention? No, man. I think he generally likes kissing the baby, and I think he's got a big ego. I think a lot of this is about his ego in ways that he's probably blind to. I think also, look, we all like Norm, and we all respect Norm, right? Norm wouldn't call Biden a fascist, if you noticed. He also elided that question just like Cornell did. Now, is that generational? Is that they're older and they're just not going to go there? I mean, you look at younger people in the space, they wouldn't miss a beat, right? Is Joe Biden a fascist? Of course he is. That wouldn't be a hard one. So is that because they're older, they've been around longer, they have a more lesser of two evils view on things? Are they stuck in their historical moment where there really was a more meaningful choice between the two parties than there is now? I don't know. I can't answer that. But they both ducked that question, not just Cornell. So, yeah, I think his presidential campaign is a waste of time. We would never encourage anybody to get involved in it. I think he is a politician in the sense that he knows how to duck a question and he knows how to formulate an answer in a way that basically gets him around the sticky stuff. He was actually very good at that. If you look at how he answered my two questions, those are real politician's answers that he had prepared. So in that sense, he's a politician. But do I think this whole process on the left where we're so quick to rule out of bounds people who are on the left, but we're perfectly happy to work with people who are actually on the right who might agree with us on one or 2 points. It's funny. People on the left will very often accuse Democrats of that. How much they get weak in the knees when they can get along with Liz Cheney. Right. And a lot of the radical left is the same way, man. They want to hang with the right wingers, but they want to rule people who agree with them on 90% of things out of bounds. And I'm not saying that 10% is not important, and I'm not saying it's not important to confront people on those disagreements, but can we confront people without just, going to that extreme of like, oh, that's it, you're a scumbag. Do we have to go there with everybody? Like I said, after going to the douchebag dialogues, I've really rethought that.
Please clap.